Hey guys, so today we are going to look at the standard form of a quadratic equation and what a quadratic equation looks like graphed. We really didn't get to dive much into this. We really focused a lot on graphing. So just as a quick review, you guys should know that the standard form of a quadratic is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So, and when you graph a quadratic equation, it creates a U-shaped curve called a parabola. Alright, so below, it says use your graphing calculator to sketch the following. So I've pulled up, if you want to do this on your own, you may. I pulled up Desmo's graphing calculator online to graph both these equations. So when I graph the first equation, y equals x squared plus 2x minus 5, my vertex was at negative 1, 6. So, because I'm just going to be doing a basic sketch. So, let's say that negative 1, negative 6 is there. So when I go to sketch this graph, it opens up and looks like this. So, and then the dotted line I just drew is called the axis of symmetry. So similarly, I did the same thing with y equals negative x squared plus 3x plus 7. So the vertex of this graph is at 1.5, negative 4.75. So it's a little higher up, but not too much higher up. And this graph is opening down. Hopefully your U looks better than mine. And additionally, this dotted line that I'm drawing is called the axis of symmetry. So if A is positive, so in this scenario, my A was positive, then the parabola opens up. Okay, so similarly, if A is, so if we look here, so when I'm talking about A, remember that imaginary number, which in this scenario, that imaginary number that we can't see is 1. So if I wanted to, I could put a 1 here, and then here, my coefficient of this is negative 1. All right, so if A is negative, then the parabola opens down like a frown. All right, so then that dotted line that I was talking about is called the axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry is the vertical line. Let's see if I can get this all in one frame. All right, so it's the vertical line that divides the parabola into two equal parts. All right, so the formula, so we're going to be referencing this a lot. So the formula to find the axis of symmetry, let me do that in red so you guys can, so it's more noticeable. So you've got x equals negative b all divided by 2a. So see why I was wanting to remind you guys about the standard form of a quadratic equation. All right, so the vertex. The vertex is always basic. It's the turning point of the parabola. And I'm just going to put the turning point. So when you have the lowest point, so that means when your parabola is opening upward and it's the lowest point, then you have a minimum. When the vertex is the highest point, so this is when your parabola is opening down, it is always going to be called a maximum. All right, so let's do some examples of graphing and what I want you to do on your first classwork assignment. All right, so the first thing I want you to do is to find the axis of symmetry. All right, so the axis of symmetry is using the formula x equals negative b over 2a. So I know a in this scenario is 1, b equals 8, and c equals 15. All right, so I know it's negative b, so negative. I'm going to put my 8 in parentheses just so I know that that negative isn't attached to the 8, times 2, a is 1. So I've got negative 8 over 2. All right, so my axis of symmetry is negative 4. So the one nice thing about the axis of symmetry is since it's negative 4, that means that the x value of my vertex is negative 4. So now, which you may use a calculator, all you have to do is plug in negative 4 for x and simplify. So, and then I'll have to do my sketch. All right, so I'm going to do this underneath. So I want to find my y value. So I know the x value of my vertex is negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4 plus 15. All right, so y equals 16 minus 32 plus 15. So I've got y equals, so if I do 16 plus 15, I know that's 31 minus 32, and that would simplify to negative 1. So my vertex is negative 4, negative 1. All right, so now I'm going to come over, whoops, and I am going to do just a simple sketch of my graph. All right, so here's my y-axis, here's my x. All right, so I know my vertex is at negative 4, negative 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's do negative 1. So there's my vertex. And I know it's opening up because my a value is positive. And that's all I want you to do on your classwork. So I'm going to go ahead and do another one. All right, so again, number 2. I've got y equals negative x squared plus 10x minus 23. So I want to find my axis of symmetry, my vertex, and then my sketch. All right, so again, for number 2, I'm going to go ahead and list out my a values. So I've got a equals negative 1, b equals 10, c equals negative 23. All right, so I need to find my axis of symmetry first. All right, so my axis of symmetry is going to be x equals negative b. So my b value was 10. Put that in parentheses. Divided by 2 times my a. My a value here is negative 1. All right, so this is going to simplify to negative 10 over 2 times negative 1, which would be negative 2. So my axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 5. So now remember what I said about the axis of symmetry. What's nice about this is it's always also, that x value is also the x of my vertex. So I know my vertex for this one is going to be at 5. So now I need to plug 5 in for x. So I've got y equals negative 5 squared. And then plus 10x so plus 10 times 5 minus 23. All right, so simplifying. So this is where I want you to pay attention. So I put the 5 in parentheses because I'm technically, when you have a negative x squared, you're multiplying by a negative 1. So that's why it's not negative 5 times negative 5, it's 5 times 5 times negative 1. So here I've got negative 25 plus 10 times 5 is 50 minus 23. All right, so looking to simplify this, I've got negative 25 plus 50, which would be a positive 25, minus 23, and that simplifies to positive 2. All right, so I'm going to go over here to my sketch. All right, so I've got my axis, my y-axis, x-axis. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. So now keep in mind, I had a negative here. So although so I know my axis of symmetry is 5, my vertex is 5, 2, but I had a negative a value, so I need to remember that my graph is going to open down. So and again, I'm not looking for a perfect sketch, I'm looking for rough sketches. I want you guys to focus on where the vertex is, how to find the vertex, the axis of symmetry. Alright, sorry guys. This is why you should turn off phones when you're doing this. Alright, so I'm going to do 5 of these so that you guys can see. And then if you have questions, email me please. I haven't figured out completely how I'm going to do office hours quite yet, or if I'm going to do a Google Hangout during the day. So at this point, if you're working ahead, just go ahead, and you're watching this before March 30th, and you haven't seen anything from me, just go ahead and shoot me a quick email, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right. So number 3. So I went ahead. My A value is 3. My B is negative 12, so don't forget to take over that negative. And my C is positive 5. So I'm going to come over and find my axis of symmetry. All right, so I've got x equals, so negative b, so my b is 12, so negative of a negative 12, all over 2 times my a, which is 3. All right, so negative of a negative 12. I don't want you, remember this is technically being multiplied by negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 12 is positive 12. 2 times 3, 2 times 3 is 6. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 2. All right, so I know my axis of symmetry is x equals 2, which means the x value of my vertex is 2. So I'm going to plug it back into my original equation. So y equals 3 times 2 squared minus 12 times 2 plus 5. All right, so let's go ahead and simplify. This is 3, 2 squared is 4, minus 24, and then, sorry for my messy handwriting, guys, plus 5. All right, so I've got 12 minus 24 plus 5. All right, so I'm running out of space. 12 minus 24 gives me a negative 12. Plus 5 simplifies to negative 7. So my vertex is 2, negative 7. All right, so sketching. Y-axis, x-axis. So I've got my vertex at 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So negative 2, negative 7. My a value is positive, so my parabola will open up. All right, number 4, so let's look at this one. So I've got y equals 4x squared plus 8x minus 1. All right, so a is 4, b equals 8, c equals negative 1. All right, so my axis of symmetry, again, x equals negative b over 2a. So x equals negative, my b value is 8, so I'm going to put 8 in parentheses, divided by 2 times my a value, which is 4. Ooh, this one should be pretty. All right, so I've got negative 8 over positive 8. So x equals negative 1. So it means my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 1, which makes my vertex negative 1. So just a quick reminder, remember that axis of symmetry, so if you think about the name. It's symmetry. So when you have symmetry, that means it's the same on the left and the right. So really the vertex, you can fold the parabola in half on the vertex and it should map onto itself. If it doesn't, then there's some math wrong. So we need to kind of keep that in mind as we're going through things. So, all right, so my vertex I need to find. So I know y is equal to 4 times -1 squared plus 8 times -1 minus 1. So y equals -1 times -1 gives me a +1, so it makes a +4 minus 8 minus 1. All right, 4 minus 8 is a -4 minus 1, so y is going to equal -5. All right, so again, come over. Oops, sorry y'all. Let's do a quick sketch. So I've got -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my a value is positive, so it opens up. Try to make a u. Later on, you're gonna find out why, because there's other functions called absolute value functions, and they're v's. So you don't get your u's and your v's confused, please. All right, last example, and then you can stop listening to me and go on. All right, so a equals -1, b equals -4, c equals -2. All right, so axis of symmetry. Again, x equals -b over 2a, so negative. My b value is -4, so I'm going to have negative times a -4 divided by 2 times my a, which is -1. So remember that I said that this is technically a -1 times a -4. So that becomes a +4 over a -2. So my axis of symmetry simplifies to x equals -2. So if I were to fold my parabola in half at x equals -2, it should map onto itself. All right, so then my vertex, whoops, what am I doing? Sorry, y'all. Getting ahead of myself. Well, or behind myself, whatever. All right, so my vertex, I know my x value is going to be -2. So I need to plug this back into my original equation. So y equals negative. So -2 squared minus 4 times -2 minus 2. All right, remember I said you have to do the parentheses. So -2 times -2 is a +4. Then it becomes a -4 because you're technically multiplying by that -1. So then -4 times -2 is +8 minus 2. So -4 plus 8 becomes a +4. +4 minus 2 is a 2. So my vertex is going to be at -2, 2. All right, so 1, 2, and then up 1, 2. All right, so remember, for my last one, my a value was a negative, so this is opening down. All right, so you guys are going to see something really similar to these notes that I just did for you guys on your classwork. So I pretty much want you to duplicate what I just did. If you have questions, again, don't hesitate to email me. Again, I'm posting this early, so there is a learning curve with this. Any feedback would be great. If you're having trouble hearing me, if you're having trouble accessing something, just communicate with me and I will do my best to fix it and get back to you as soon as I can. So, hope everyone is doing well. I miss you guys. Bye.